Good morning, ladies, gentlemen, and everything else in between. We hope you had a wonderful rest, and we hope you're excited for some wonderful discussions that we've got planned for the day. Dylan, are you excited?
Yeah, this is definitely a topic I am personally very invested in. Lots of good memories from this.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. Just for anyone who's new here, this is Discussions at Brunch. This is our second episode. Our last episode was regarding bowling and the Big Lebowski. That was our first ever episode, technically. And we went ahead and we've posted it up to YouTube. So, if you ever want to go back and listen to that again, you're more than welcome to. I guess I need to work on getting a bot to put that YouTube link in there, but I'll make sure I get
Hmm.
on that. But Dylan, regarding our bowling episode, I mean, how'd you think that went? You think that went pretty okay?
Yeah, I think it went pretty well. We delved into some very interesting and entertaining topics, I think. It's very much worth a listen if you haven't listened to it already.
Most definitely. A lot of people were that I talked to that had listened to the show were very surprised about how much there is just regarding a bowling alley, like with the oil patterns and balls, different polishes that they can have, so on and so forth. They were very surprised.
Oh yeah, it is a science. It definitely is.
But today we're not going to be talking about bowling. Bowling so last week. Everyone can bowl. But Dylan, what do we got planned for today?
Well, today we're going to be talking about our local game shop or card shop where we play a lot of different card games, lots of trading card games, and some war games as well. It's a lot of variety there and a lot of good times too.
Oh yeah, I uh, I remember when we weren't exactly in college yet, but we were getting ready to slide into there, and I think we spent a lot of good time in our high school years going to that place. But even more so once we got into college.
Hmm. Yeah, it's got a lot of time there that we spent, especially like near the end of high school, beginning of college, that and mostly all throughout college because it was very close to campus for us.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a convenient spot to meet up sometimes and play some games.
Most definitely, and get like super aggravated or. Oh man. No, but yeah, most definitely. Today we are talking about your local card shop experience, as well as some of our experiences that we've had at our local card shop. And card shops, just to kind of get right into the meat of things, card shops these days are getting wild. Like there's like I don't know if you watch a whole lot of TikTok, right? But there's this guy who like has this internet cafe, but the dude like has showers there. He has food available to purchase, but people can like just stay there 24/7, like never have to leave practically. And it's just like a
Oh wow.
game shop. I can't remember what the heck it's called off the top of my head. But like it's crazy. Like, when we were growing up, and maybe it's just the area that we're in, but like your card shop was open from like regular hours for a card shop, right? Like normally from like noon to midnight, maybe
Hmm.
3 to 3 a.m. Like, but it's always like that 12-hour gap. I don't know what we would have done if we had like a card shop that was open 24 hours a day that offered those types of amenities. Maybe we wouldn't have graduated college.
Yeah, just be living there for a week or two. Um, and another thing is that a lot of these shops were just like run out of people's houses too. I remember we had a shop a while back for Warhammer stuff, and it was just out of someone's house. It was really weird to go in there
Yeah.
when I first started, but it was it's definitely evolved since then. It's gotten much better.
Yeah, and that's kind of weird, right? Like if you know that there's a niche that you want to bring to a town, but you don't exactly have money to like open up a business location, that's just common. It's like, oh, I'm just gonna sell like Yu-Gi-Oh cards out of my
Mhm.
garage,
Yeah. Yeah.
But our local card shop, it's gone through a decent amount of changes. I think when my earliest memory of it was like attached to like a family video. Am I mistaken in remembering that?
I believe it was, yes. Like it wasn't quite popular enough to kind of be its own store, so almost all of them were always attached to some other business that was at least somewhat successful to
Yeah.
help prop up the card shop.
But like they've always had like our card shop has like now a pizza part of it. Like they serve pizza and like Italian subs and stuff like that. Do you
Mhm.
remember if they've always done that?
I think they were definitely a pizza place before they became a card shop. I'm not sure. I believe they didn't start with a card shop. They definitely started with pizza and their subs and stuff, and then moved over to. I think the owner's son decided to open up half of the shop as a card shop.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a good head on his shoulders because at the time, like we didn't have like we had a Walden Books way back when, and that was like the main place to go to get like your nerd related items for like gaming and whatnot. And then like we we also have like Books a Million, but like other than those two things, you really didn't have like anywhere to go. No one likes buying from Walmart, especially nowadays since like the card trading hype, since like Logan Paul or whatever. Like people, hey, welcome, Zorro, better Olivia. English is hard. Chocolate Muffin Queen, sweaters, how's it going? What's up, bro, Richard? How's it going, everybody? Golly, we got raided. That's what happened. I don't have a raid
Yeah, yeah.
notification. What the heck? I thought I did.
Should set one up. Thanks
Welcome,
for the raid.
everybody. Thanks for the raid. I appreciate it. We're talking about our local card shop experience today. Oh, all these followers. Absolutely beautiful. If you guys can see that, we actually have a follower goal now. I set that up just the other day. So Richard doesn't remember the sperm eggs. That's okay. He was having a rough night. I think most of us were having a rough night.
Mhm.
Just for some context, me and Brutal Richard, we share a Discord server now. I figured since since we have a lot of the same community, and I really just kind of vibe with everything that he does, it was best if we just kind of started a community server, and and so that's what we got going on now. But we've added a lot of cool things, as you guys can see in the bottom left corner. We now have chat available to be seen on stream, just in case I miss it. I could always look at my stream and catch up with it because it's a little behind. But yeah, we're talking about our card shop experience and all that good jazz. Dylan, would you do me the honors of putting in the Discord command in chat?
Oh, sure.
Exclamation
Yeah.
Discord. Oh, this is exciting. Let's see if it works. Come on, big money, big money. Watch it not work.
Did I?
No!
Did I, did I
That's
not,
okay. I'll make sure.
did I not spell it right, or
No, it's definitely the bot. That's okay.
hmm.
Ah, no. Oh,
It's
big
a
sad.
learning experience? Maybe there's something with the bot that we need to figure out. But
That's okay. When in doubt, don't trust the robots. Look at that. There's a Discord link. For anyone who's not in the Discord yet, you could always join it there and join our wonderful community. Hey, don't bring my gallbladder into this, all right? But getting back on track, once again, thanks, guys. We really appreciate it. We're at
Mhm.
22 followers. We're almost at the 30 followers. I'll have to come up with a new goal because I don't stream. Dylan, do you stream?
I do not. This is the only streaming thing I do. So
Oh man. But yeah. Anyways, getting back to the mailman just scared the absolute living crap out of me.
that's right. Your desk is right next to the front door. So
Yeah, card shops. So our local card shop started off as like a pizza place, and the son of the owner of the pizza place was like, "Yo, I play a lot of cards, and we really want a place to hang out." And I think that's how the card shop in our town really started.
hmm
And we've had a couple of others, right? But they've come and gone. They've not really lasted the test of time.
yeah, there's been several shops that stayed around for maybe about a year or so and then just faded away. But this one that's been attached to this pizzeria has been around for years, for almost a decade now, I think.
It's. I think we're getting past a decade. I think they're coming up on two. I mean, because that was like when we were in. I mean, we frequented it a lot in high school, but I'm pretty sure their son is a couple of years older than us. I think we would have been in middle school at that time.
Mm.
So I think they might have just passed the 2 decades.
Yeah, I think so. Something around there. They've been around for some time, and they have been growing ever since. It is huge now. They made so many changes. Went from just a single like little display case to a whole half of the pizzeria is now just for cards, board games, war games,
Yeah.
pretty much anything, really.
And they foster, oh wow, they foster so many communities. I mean, we've got the Yu-Gi-Oh community, they've got the Pokemon community, Warhammer 40K, Magic the Gathering. I almost forgot a little bit of Force of Will. Um, heck, they even do like Smash tournaments, if I'm not mistaken.
hmm Yeah, they do tournaments for pretty much anything that anyone wants to do tournaments for. I think they have it open to people who just want to rent out that half of the shop for if they want to run their own tournament,
Yeah.
have prize money and things like that. It's always a good time. Always runs to about midnight every time too.
Ultraman, thanks for the follow. Zoro here says they wish they had a local card shop, but has to drive 45 minutes to get to the closest shop. Ooh, that would that would be detrimental, I think, to our local community. And our town is a college town, so that really helps the community like a lot.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it's close to one of the colleges too, so it's very
It's within
convenient.
walking distance, right?
Oh, yes, yeah, very easily walkable. Probably maybe 5 minute walk at most.
Yeah,
It's pretty close.
unless you're on the far side of campus, in which case it's
Oh
gonna
yeah,
be a 30-minute walk.
that'll be a while.
Oh man, but yeah, this card shop has been around for a nice long time. They have a decent amount of amenities, like we said. They're attached to a pizzeria. Great food. I mean,
Oh yeah.
yeah, if you're doing some late night like card games and you get hungry, they just straight up will provide. It's always good food, and it's all made there in the shop. Like it's not like order out. Like they make their dough and everything like that. It is absolutely delicious, and it's the perfect amount of unhealthy.
Oh yeah. Perfect to get your oily hands all over your cards and
Yeah.
really ruin up ruin those unsleeved
Yeah,
cards.
that's actually part of the business plan. That way they can sell a lot of their Ultra Pro and Dragon Shields.
True, true. They always have a insane collection of dragon shields.
Yeah. Um, but kind of getting into it, Dylan, what would you say is like what we did most at that card shop that you remember?
I played a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments, but I think you and I, most we did was play Magic and Force of Will, I think was the main two games we
Mm-hmm.
played there. But
Brutal Richard says unsleeved cards. You didn't put a trigger warning on that. Not only were they unsleeved cards, but they're greasy finger unsleeved cards. I'm talking people who would buy like a whole booster box and then just unsleeve them with just grease, dude, like fingerprints all over the place.
Mm.
Barbarians. Yeah, but most definitely, I think me and you most definitely spent a lot of time in Magic the Gathering,
Mm-hmm.
and
Definitely.
with Force of Will. Even if we didn't play Force of Will all that often, the community for Force of Will is just not that it's not that big, really,
Yeah.
in our state.
Yeah, yeah, there just really isn't anyone to play with here for that, and it's a shame because I think it's a really interesting card game,
Yeah,
but it's just not popular here, so don't really get any tournaments or anything like that for it. So,
yeah, they definitely tried with Force of Will. I mean, if I remember correctly, the local Force of Will community is like Chicago, which is a 3 hour drive from us.
mm,
And I like the card game. I don't think I like the card game enough to drive 3 hours to Chicago and deal with
yeah,
like Chicago traffic, you know?
it's a bit too much of an ask for a card game. I'm
Yeah.
just barely into, you know.
But Magic the Gathering, we have spent so, so much time and money
Oh yeah,
in Magic the Gathering. Uh,
hundreds if not thousands.
I don't think I'm at the thousands yet. I'm probably close, but I haven't bought like paper Magic in, I don't know, probably since college. If I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, yeah, there was that one time when was it Ishtar? Was that the no? Uh they had like the thopters and stuff and vehicles. That was the big thing.
Yeah, yeah. I can't remember the name of the set, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, that was like the last set I can remember us buying a bunch of packs for and just kind of
I think each
building a
one of
deck.
us bought a booster box, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that was the last like big uh expansion we really jumped in, at least in the physical
Yeah.
paper
I know
Magic.
when like Return to Ravnica was super popular with us back in high school. Because we were meeting in our was it chemistry class or science class, whatever the hell it was, like every
Mm.
morning before school and playing Magic with everybody there.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was always a good time. We built up a pretty decently sized group of just players
Yeah.
that we just played Magic every morning, and it was always a good time. And sometimes during lunch too, if we could find time.
Oh
But
yeah. Like
yeah,
AB lunch. If you're unfamiliar with what AB lunch is, they split because our school was decently large. They were like, we have too many students here, so half the students are going to go during A lunch, half the students are going to go B lunch. But if you had a cool teacher, they would just give you A B lunch. So you had the full. I don't know. It was almost what 2 hours for lunch.
just about. Yeah, just about 2 hours.
Um, Golly, I wish I could. I'm gonna pull up that set on my phone here because I don't think it was Meridian. Um, but Innistrad, we did some Innistrad right when they brought that back around.
Hmm. Yeah, they had a lot of angels and stuff in that. Yeah.
Yeah, vehicle set Magic the Gathering. Let's take a look here. That wow, that was the worst search that I could have done. But maybe it'll bring me in closer here. Kaladesh.
Kaladesh, yes, that's what it was.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mustard. Nice to see you here. Yeah, so Thopters and artifacts and the Mire creatures were from Meridian, but with Kaladesh they brought it back with like I don't know. Would you call it like steampunk, Dylan? Like it.
Yeah, it was a little. I think, yeah, that would be. You could call it that, definitely. Just like magic machinery,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like
and
Meridian was that was more like post-apocalyptic type stuff, right?
uh, I do not recall.
Because like a lot of the like every time like you'd see like the Mire or I think the Black Steel Golem was from that set as well from Meridian. Like you always see like the background like super messed up. I think that was the set close after Phyrexia, like the first one,
Mm.
and I care about winning, not lore. Listen, you're on a nerd podcast, bro, Richard. There's gonna be some lore, but we can talk about winning. Dylan, what deck do you think won the most when we played?
Winning is all I ever did with my infect deck. That was, that was everyone hated that deck. Everyone at school. It
Yeah,
was fun. But I tried to make it a little less win in turn 3
yeah.
kind of. I tried to make it a little mid-rangey just to be a little more fair, but it won a lot of games.
Oh yeah, that because you're always afraid with those -1/1 counters, and then also the poison counters that it does.
Yep.
So it's like, oh, you only have to take half the freaking damage to
Yep.
to get destroyed.
You get hit 10 times, you're out. That's
Yeah,
it.
especially when you give them trample. Ugh.
Oh yeah. That's always a really fun combo there.
I don't know. I think I mean infect decks I think are generally hated by the community, but in our personal circle, hey, thanks for the follow, Tickus. I think in our personal circle, my blue black mill deck.
Oh yeah.
I think
Yeah,
everyone
that was a
hated that.
monster. That was a monster. That was always annoying to play against, definitely.
Oh man. Oh God, what when we were all running shit. It was the artifact card that restored life and lets you put your deck or your graveyard back into your deck. Elixir of Immortality.
I think so. I think that's the card you're thinking of, yeah.
Yeah, everyone was running that card in our
It's so
group.
useful. It works in every deck.
It's so good. It's so good. After our high school years, I think we matured. You know, I think we got away from the cheap decks. You know, we got away from the infect and the
Mm.
mill and the green stomp decks. Like we were kind of done with that. And so in turn, for whatever reason, we were both like, let's do like white soldier or white angel decks. Like that'll be
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, it when it worked, but that definitely not the best of decks. It got stomped out by a majority of things I fought against that were at least somewhat well constructed. So
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think my angel deck always did pretty well, especially since I had that enchantment that gave it protection from all colors.
yeah, that's a pretty good one.
The
Yeah.
Parakeet Man says that they have about 13 commander decks. Not one of them is built to win. They're all built for fun. White Soldier deck to this day is undefeated. Well, you have to play the game, Richard, to be defeated, you know.
Yeah.
As for Parakeet, I don't know a single commander deck that's like built to win. Commander is such a casual format, especially nowadays. Commander is super popular. Um, but you know, I think as long as a deck has a win condition and that's just like a bunch of cards thrown together, I think it's going to be fun regardless.
Mhm.
At least it's going to be fun for you. Maybe not everybody at
Yeah.
the table.
Maybe I remember there was this evolved deck that someone had, which was nuts. That was always a joy to go against. I
Yeah, those evolved decks were crazy. Like, oh, I'm just gonna this little 1/1. Yeah, no, it's not a 1/1 anymore. It's a big stompy boy now.
Oh, 1/1 counter, 1/1 counter.
Yeah. What was it? Our buddy had a squirrel deck. Oh, oh,
Mm.
that was awful.
There was a lot of variety in our group. I think it was nice.
Yeah, all fun and games until the Yu-Gi-Oh nerds started to also play during the same time,
Oh
and then
yeah,
and then some of us started adopting Yu-Gi-Oh, like myself. What a what a mistake that was.
yeah, yeah. Well, Yu-Gi-Oh is fun until you fight the people who are playing to win, who one turn win every single time you fight them. So it's it's always fun.
400. They're saying on average their decks cost about $400 to get started. Guys, there's this wonderful thing called buying bulk cards, and you can just build popper decks out of that. Like you get what 200 cards for 20 bucks, and that's not including the lands that's in the box. Like they give you enough lands in there to like make a few decks,
Mhm.
and like you can have a good time playing Commander with those popper decks. Also, just buy singles. Like buy the bulk cards, make a decent deck, and then if you need specific cards, buy singles or save money in proxy. You know.
Wiping the floor with a starter deck. Some of those starter decks are dangerous. Like it.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say it's not so much anymore. I don't know if anyone watches Tolarian Community College on YouTube, but they summarize kind of what's been happening in Magic the Gathering here recently, like the past few years, and the starter decks aren't good like anymore. But maybe just the cards in general aren't good anymore.
Yeah, and a lot of times if they come with like a big card, like a Planeswalker or something, they'll give you the dumbed down version of that card or like the lesser one out of the set, like the one that's not that great but has some good utility.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like I still love Magic the Gathering. I play the Magic Arena for like PC, and that's kind of how I stay in the community and still have a fun time.
Mm.
But yeah, just paper Magic just keeps getting more and more expensive, and it's not because of the player community, it's because of the collector community. Like they'll drop new cards or like a new set, and like they'll be sold at Walmart, just instantly sold out. And it
Oh
is
yeah.
some of the most annoying stuff.
Yeah, Walmart was definitely our main source of cards, at least in middle school
Hmm.
for a while before the card shop really blew up.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I think that's enough about Magic. Dylan, you wanna switch over to Yu-Gi-Oh? I think we
Sure.
spent
Yeah.
a lot of time playing Yu-Gi-Oh as well. At least I did with our buddies Sean and Anthony.
Yeah, I really didn't pick up Yu-Gi-Oh until like I think it was senior year of high school, honestly.
Yeah.
And I played it quite a bit. I actually went to tournaments for it and stuff and won maybe one round in the tournaments.
Hmm.
I did not build to win because I was obsessed with like the artwork on some cards, like
Oh yeah.
specifically the like marionette cards. I really loved the artwork on those cards, so I just wanted to build a deck around it, even though it didn't work at all. It just it was really fun, and I had this like briefcase that I put all my cards in for
Hmm.
Yu-Gi-Oh, and I'd bring it with me every time I went to a tournament because after a tournament around like midnight or 1 a.m., everyone kind of just settles down because the tournament's over and we just start trading cards and I'd always pop out the briefcase and people would freak out like what the and I think other people actually started bringing briefcases after that because because I've seen other people with briefcases with cards. It's just a convenient way to hold your bulk cards, you know?
Yeah, yeah. In a briefcase, handcuffed to your wrist, you know. uh, Zoro here says, admittedly, they tried to get in the game like 4 years ago, Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh, and their area is basically impossible to play casually because everyone plays it as if it was a tournament. Yeah, you're gonna have those super serious players, but you know, if you find a good group, specifically for like Magic, you can have a nice casual play.
Mhm.
As for Yu-Gi-Oh, good fucking luck to find someone who wants to play that game casually.
Yeah, there's a lot of like decks that are really broken kind of, you know, like oh yeah, I do a million things on my first turn, use
Yeah,
my entire deck and I win.
like
Done.
Magic the Gathering is definitely like I can get a good 5 turns in. Where Yu-Gi-Oh, every deck is practically built to win turn one, and if your
Mm,
deck isn't built to win turn one, you're just gonna lose. That's just how it's gonna go. Um, but personally, I played Yu-Gi-Oh way back in elementary school. Like we were playing way back when, and then I got back into it in my high school and in my college years. And the decks I built at the time weren't meant to win in the sense of, oh, I'm gonna outplay you. My decks were built to win in the sense of, I'm gonna stall this game so long that the person that I'm playing just fucking quits. Like Ghost Tricks was like, I love playing Ghost Tricks. They were so much fun. You just keep turning like your board face down, and like in turn you can turn like your opponent's board face down, and like you just start like milling out their deck and then banishing their graveyard, and then also doing like damage each turn without ever having to attack them. And they have every opportunity to attack you, because when all your cards are face down, they have the opportunity, specifically with Ghost Tricks, that this is a Ghost Trick mechanic. They can attack your life points directly, but they have to be able to flip their cards back up to do that, and I'd never let them do that. So I'm just like dealing like 300 damage per turn. And with Yu-Gi-Oh rules now, with the life points set at 8,000 instead of 2,000 when the game first started, it just goes on forever.
Yeah, I remember. I think you played against me once with that deck, and it was miserable. I had a terrible time.
I know when we were frequenting the card shop a lot, especially when Sean was working there, right?
Hmm.
We went there a lot when he was working there. Cyber Dragons was like the big deck to play. And
Oh yeah.
oh my God, talk about annoying. You couldn't win. There was no winning against a cyber deck. Like you could stall for as long as you wanted, but eventually they just popped off and there's nothing you could do.
Yeah, you'd kind of have to build your deck to specifically counter their deck. Unless, like, if you don't do that, you're just gonna lose.
Yeah. And I don't know. That's not a whole lot of fun. Like if you know everyone in the card shop is building Cyber Dragons and everyone's like, "Oh, I spent more money on this Cyber Dragon deck, ergo I'm going to win," which is how it goes. You don't want to play. So you just like don't interact with those people. You just sit with your friends and you play Yu-Gi-Oh there and play with your outdated decks or whatever. And that, I mean, that it was still a good time. You just didn't
Oh
get a
yeah.
whole lot of social interaction with new people.
Yeah, it was a, it's always fun playing card games. It's I really liked getting into new card games. That's kind of why we got into Force of Will for a little bit and stuff. It's
Hmm.
always interesting to learn how different this card game is. And with nowadays, most of these card games you can play on your computer.
Yeah.
There's online versions of card games. I think most of the most popular card games are on your phone or on the computer. So it's got
Yeah.
plenty of options now.
They've really opened the market for people who can't afford to play paper cards to be able to play these online versions of the games. They give you like starter decks on practically every platform, and you can earn more starter decks and just use like in-game currency to build casual decks or even
Hmm.
tournament legal decks. Like getting into a tournament online is significantly easier and significantly cheaper than like trying to do something IRL, which,
Oh yeah.
for people who want to just get in the community is wonderful. It's kind of hurtful towards like your local communities, but there's a different type of vibe between online and IRL. Like people won't stop going to their local card shop because like, oh, I do all these tournaments now online. Like they still want to build their deck, I'll call it, as like a real deck, and like I want to see how this does in real life against these other people.
Oh yeah. If anything, Friday Night Magic at our local shop has gotten bigger since Arena came out. Honestly, I think
Hmm.
it's a huge ordeal. That parking lot is always full on Friday night.
Brutal Richard says, "Hot take. I think the digitization of card games has ruined the scene, but I'm old as fuck." And that's honestly that's a valid point because I know for a fact Magic the Gathering Arena and Yu-Gi-Oh, was it uh Master Duel, I think is what it's called. They have some electronic only cards, like cards that you can
Oh
only
yeah,
find on
yeah.
the platform. But
Hmm.
they also just like they have formats that are like exclusive to the platform as well. So they're playing to their niche. And I don't know. I would say that it has done a little bit of damage, like because as Richard's saying here, being able to balance the card digitally before it's released physically um, kind of takes out a lot of fun because like when a new card's released you're like, oh, I wonder if I can do like an infinite loop deck, just
Hmm.
absolutely break it. And that was part of the fun. But I think now card games biggest rivals is like these big companies that are buying them, like Hasbro currently is with Magic the Gathering. And Magic the Gathering is owned by Wizards of the Coast, which is owned by Hasbro. So that's
Hmm.
that whole thing. But they've always patched cards though, right? Like in Yu-Gi-Oh, in Magic the Gathering, even in Pokemon, like if they release like a first version of a card and they realize that that card's too powerful, once that card gets out of rotation, normally they'll print like the same card that's altered a little bit to be a little bit more um, viable, a little bit more balanced towards gameplay,
Yeah.
and that's and then the card just plays off the new rules. So it's kind of the same thing, but I guess just not as fast as it is if they were to release something first digitally and then release it physically.
Yeah, and I think it takes away a bit of the experimentation and like theory crafting and stuff because you could build a deck online and then just test it out there against actual people, and it just kind of, I don't know, it takes away from the fun of just playing a completely jank deck to like a tournament or something just to see if it works, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, release isn't the same as a patch though. It's still in rotation till the next set, and the fun, the meta is always and been around deck building. What a card seems overpowered and making that work. True, true. But also like there are still cards that like make it through. Not every card gets patched. Sometimes they're like, this card is broken, but we don't think it's broken enough to take out of the set or to patch or to edit and stuff like that. So
Mm.
I think the digital cards are mostly helpful in just expanding the community, which I think any community can be thankful for, even if sometimes you get like some toxic people. But I can't say that's really happened with Magic the Gathering, like increasing the toxicity. Yu-Gi-Oh has always been toxic.
That's part of the charm of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Like, it's just not good. Um, but yeah, I mean, you're gonna get that, and some people are gonna play physical, some people are gonna play digital, and I don't think there's anything wrong with either of those. I think do what's most available to you. That way, you can be a part of the community.
Yeah, and it's
Um,
very good for people who don't have a card shop close by, you
hmm
know, they can just enjoy that experience just online.
Yeah, for sure. Um, Force of Will. I think the biggest attraction of that card game wasn't particularly the mechanics because like we never played Force of Will before. We just kind of saw it there at the card shop, and they
Yeah.
had a couple of singles laying out, right, and it was the art, right, that really attracted us.
It had a really nice art style, I think, and it was really interesting. It was different from all the other card games we play. It's kind of like this fantasy anime kind of style.
Yeah, and anime is kind of strong because it wasn't particularly anime, but it was definitely like that manga feel. Like
Mm.
it didn't have like actually I'm thinking about your Alice in Wonderland deck now. It might have had some boba.
It was maybe, maybe.
um but like to describe Force of Will, I don't know. I would say it's like a healthy mix but like it fits perfectly between Magic the Gathering and Pokemon, where like there
Hmm.
was there was mana that you could attach to cards, but it wasn't as finite as Pokemon, but not as unlimited as Magic. Like you really had to think about your resources.
Yeah, and the theming I particularly liked about that, because like the deck that I eventually built was like a fairy tale deck. It was based on a bunch of old fairy tales, and
Hmm.
you had the Pied Piper and Alice and Red Riding Hood and all these different fairy tales,
Yeah.
all in a book or all in a deck. Unfortunately, there was a card that just completely shuts it down. It was like Back to Stories or something like that, and it just disables all fairy tales,
Yeah.
and it was dumb, but
I mean, but the would you say it's like kind of like Commander because like you definitely had a hero
yeah,
like
yeah,
in the
you
deck.
had to have a hero. You had to have a hero that was always out, always front and center, and your deck was kind of built around them because they
Yeah.
always had like a synergy or a ability that worked well with whatever you were building. It was that game in particular was built around synergy. Like you
Hmm.
had to build a deck around a specific tribe.
Yeah, most definitely. Like in Magic the Gathering, like if you don't have your commander out in the field, no big deal. Your deck is still gonna live without it. It's just not gonna be as strong. With Force of Will, if your commander gets like disabled, your deck is practically toast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're done if that happens.
Speaking of Force of Will, I don't even know if like the decks that me and you have built, I don't even know if they're like legal anymore. I haven't checked up on Force and Will in literally forever. I,
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know
been
if
a
we're running
while.
legacy cards anymore.
Yeah, that I'm not even sure how the format really works in that because we never played it like
Yeah, like when it came out, it was a
seriously.
brand new game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I mean, it was a good time. We all bought. I think we all bought like a, or we went in together on like a booster box, and like we kind of split it up the way that we wanted it.
Yeah, yeah. That's where most of my fairy tale cards came from.
Hmm.
Got some really good cards out of that too.
Yeah.
A lot of cool
Um,
leaders.
moving right along, Dylan. I think this is your subject, my guy.
So a recent, well, fairly recent addition to our local card shop is wargaming. In particular, Warhammer Games Workshop kind of games. Warhammer 40K, Warhammer, all that good stuff. And I've been into Warhammer 40K uh, since I was in elementary school. I've been attached to this sci-fi lore since I could remember. It was always been my favorite, and they are extremely expensive. It
Oh
is
yeah.
probably the most expensive war game I have ever laid eyes on. It's like you spend $120 on one unit, it's
Yeah.
nuts. But it's always fun to collect these little soldiers and have them lined up on a shelf or something and see your little army and then have a little box of shame of the models you haven't put together just sitting collecting dust because
All of
it
mine.
takes a lot of time.
All of mine.
it
I think I've painted 5 minis. Um,
mm,
but those paints, dude, like the top name brand paints are so expensive.
yeah.
Like even if you like buy like bottom of the branch paint brushes and like a paint palette and stuff like that, the paints alone are stupidly expensive.
Yeah, I think Games Workshop paints are like $6 for like a 12-ounce thing. I think it's
Hmm.
12 ounce, like 10 ounce or something like it. It is insanely expensive. But even like other brands, if you want decent paint, you're still gonna have to pay a little bit, but
Yeah.
it's usually like $3, $4 for uh 16 ounce or something like that.
Brutal Richard says, "Don't buy GW paint." Listen, I wouldn't buy GW paint, but it's already like the perfect consistency, and it's got that little built-in puddle lip thing on the lid when you open it. It's just it's ergonomic, right? And they've got the little minifigure holder that you can pay $80 for or whatever the heck it costs now.
80 bucks. Hey, that is convenient. It is worth it.
It is very nice because you just glue it onto the stand. Like, all right, there you go. I don't have to touch the figure at all. But just Warhammer in general, I think most minifigure, and I use the term mini lightly because I don't know if anyone's been on like with the Games Forge website, but like they've got like mini figures that are like 2.5 feet tall and cost like $2,500.
Mm.
But
Yeah, yeah. For Games Workshop specifically, the Forge World stuff, I think their cheapest, smallest Titan is
yeah,
$750.50,
yeah,
and that is nuts. And it is huge too. That is their smallest Titan, and it's like 10 pounds put together. It's nuts.
yeah. It is. It is insane. Personally, I prefer Tau. I'm a big mech guy. I like mecha anime and stuff like that. So the Tau has a lot of mechs. That's what I got into. And I think I paid $120 for the set.
Yeah. Well, that's usually the start collecting boxes, and like the patrol
Hmm.
boxes are usually give you a little bit of a discount. And if you buy from a game store, you get a 50% discount anyway. So it's usually best to buy local in that regard.
Yeah.
I actually have two armies. I have a Night Lords Chaos Space Marine army and a Leagues of Votan army that is currently my box of shame, just sitting in a corner right now. And I've almost finished painting my Night Lords.
Yeah.
I have one squad of Space Marines left, and it is it's been listen, painting is an additive process, okay? I put primer on them. They are little gray soldiers now. I will eventually paint the rest.
Yeah. Yeah, primer is like I'm such an impatient person. Also, Brutal Richard says they're currently creating a true scale interchangeable Night Lord Chaos Loyalist army, and it's breaking in their mind. And then Night Lords, yeah, simp for Dylan.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
you've got a fan out in the crowd for Night Lords.
Night
Uh,
Lords are awesome. They're like the stereotypical villain. It's awesome. They are the best.
yeah,
They're the best Traitor Legion in my opinion.
I but man, I'm such an impatient person. So like trying to wait till like the paint is fully dried and cured is just a tax on my brain because like I just want to keep painting and like all right, I finished the first layer, time to go to the second layer, and then just shit just looks really bad. Like trying to even waiting like 30 minutes is too long for me, which is why my box of shame has not been touched in years.
Yeah, it's easy to not get motivated. And yeah, like Zood is saying, thinning your paint is extremely important. Always put a dab on like your little paint, whatever you put your paint on. I use a clipboard.
Mm-hmm.
And then dip your brush in water and make sure you add some water to that just to make it a little thin, not too thin, because if you make it too thin, it'll just be a wash and
Yeah.
you won't be able to apply any color really. But
Zoot,
thinning your paints is important.
Zoot, you're assuming I have the patience to thin my paint. I want to go straight from bottle to model. All right, that's that's me.
I mean, it does take less layers if you do that. It
Yeah,
does.
but it takes
But
longer. No, I definitely thin my paints now. I just a lot of my figures are kind of half-heartedly painted, so it's getting the motivation to kind of start over on those, or just kind of assume that they're gonna look fucked compared to the rest of my army. But it happens. It happens. I want to go back to a comment. The Better Olivia says their homie bought a 3D printer and sent a link to their party to design their characters exactly what they wanted. They're probably talking about Hero Forge, if I'm not mistaken. But would you say that the 3D printing has really kind of made the game more affordable?
Definitely. Especially for like terrain pieces for like a battlefield, 3D printing is perfect for that. Because the smaller models kind of hard to 3D print unless you have like a really good 3D printer.
Yeah.
Because those tiny little details, because especially for Warhammer,
Hmm.
um, the models are tiny. Especially Leagues of Votan because they're dwarves and they are half the size of a Space Marine. Space Marines are already pretty small,
Hmm.
so it's it is hard to get those details. But for terrain pieces, 100% game changing to have a 3D printer because otherwise you'd be spending a lot of money just to have a bunch of walls and stuff
Yeah.
and ruins. But it saves you a lot of money. And I actually recently 3D printed this orc bomber fighter jet thing,
Hmm.
and it turned out pretty good. But it's bigger, obviously, because it's a vehicle, and I'm pretty happy with it. It's definitely an option to 3D print. I think it's definitely makes it cheaper to build an army, as long as you're playing with people who don't mind that your models are 3D printed.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a tournament thing that people. It's not super huge in the Warhammer 40K, but if like your stuff's not tournament legal, there are going to be a few folks that throw a fit about it. But as for like, I don't know, printing like 3D printing like a model itself, like a little character model. Those 3D printing machines where the extruding machines where they just layer on top of that.
Mm.
They're not ever. I don't think they're ever gonna have the fine detail that we're looking for. But my hope is that resin printing gets a little bit more effort put into it because I've seen some pretty fine details come out with resin printing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, resin printing is definitely the way to go, at least for home printing. However, resin sucks to work with because a lot of people like to put magnets in
Yep.
their miniatures, and if you resin print a full like piece, you'll
Mm-hmm.
have to drill into it, and then that resin gets everywhere, and
Yep.
it's particularly bad when it comes to that. But it's definitely a good option, especially if you modify the design to already have magnets,
Yeah.
little holes for magnets and stuff.
Yeah, Zoot brings up a good point. Well, he Zoot might be talking about buying power, but and resin printing can be a little bit toxic, right? It's that you really should be wearing gloves, and like the curing process, like all that stuff releases off gases and whatnot. You shouldn't even be in like regular printing, like in your room with the closed door.
Yeah.
But um, resin printing, I will say resin printing is a lot messier.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. And most modern at-home resin printers, there's like a million like little struts you have to break off of the model too, because
Hmm.
just the way it's printed.
And there's not like a good way to recycle that hardened resin, right? Like
Mm.
like an actual factory could break that back down into like the components and then make reusable resin from it. But most places don't. At your home, I mean, there might be a couple of people who have figured out the secret formula to do that, but there's I think in any printing process there's a decent amount of waste with the breakaway.
Yeah. Yeah. And the filament and stuff is pretty cheap, so it's like maybe a few cents that you'll lose there of plastic, so it's not really that big of a deal, but it's definitely a lot of waste if
Hmm.
you print with a lot of like struts to help support, which you definitely want to do because
Last thing you want is
some
a
pieces,
saggy figure.
yeah, just a piece that just way off on the print, which is definitely not what you want.
But yeah, uh, the price of like pre-painted figures, like we have this joint in town. It's not particularly a card shop, but it does sell Warhammer 40K figures, and like the owner paints the figures in his time. Pre-painted figures make their price jump up like tenfold. I'm talking like a normal figure that will like a solo figure that will cost you around like $20. Pre-painted is like 200.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
You've been to Sewer Lair Toys, right?
Yeah, yeah, they I haven't really looked into the price of their pre-painted stuff, but I imagine it gets up there because like the models themselves are already expensive,
Mm-hmm.
and they have to make a profit on that, so they're
Yep.
going to charge you more than what you would buying the models by themselves. So it's definitely a good business to get into because a lot of people don't really have the patience for painting. Because I get it, takes a while. But like I said, I like to think of it as an additive process.
Yeah.
You just maybe just don't really think about your mistakes too much because you can always go back over it, paint back over it. That's the good thing about paint is you can always correct your mistakes as long as you thin your paints correctly.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, which is it's part of the learning process, right? Not every figure is going to be nice, but I don't know how many of our viewers here tune into Studio Johnny Q. That is one of the things that he does is he will paint D&D figures. I'm sure he would paint Warhammer figures. He's done a lot of stuff, and his artwork is absolutely fantastic. He loves the process. He enjoys it. He spends a lot of time thinking about what parts need dry brushed, what parts need highlights, what parts need washes. He spends so much time and effort into those figures, and he sells them on his store. Um, so Studio Johnny Q, if you guys are interested in buying some pre-painted figurines, and you'd be helping out a local member of not only the Twitch community but also of the D&D community and related. He's a really cool guy. And hopefully I can get him on the show at some point. That'd be
Hmm.
really dope.
Yeah, talk about painting would be cool.
Yeah. Um, Going back to our card shop, Dylan, you ever tried to sell any cards before?
I have unsuccessful every time. I'd never get the money that I am expecting from it. So me being stubborn with that kind of stuff, I'm like, I'd just rather keep it in my collection instead of selling it. At that point, it's not worth it. But I definitely have some expensive cards and cards that have dropped in price because I
Mm-hmm.
held on to them for too long. So,
That's the
so the,
problem with it,
yeah.
the gamble.
Mhm. Yeah, you never know if they're going to reprint that really expensive sought after card. And then as soon as they reprint it, that price drops by like $50.
Yeah.
It's
I uh I remember I took my like Pokemon cards in there one time. This was before I started buying new Pokemon cards. But like I had a whole busted up binder full of Pokemon cards, and like some of them are like the old e-reader cards that you had for your Game Boy.
mm,
And so those were like they were a fun little tack, but whatever. But I remember like, oh yeah, I've got this Charizard here that's really cool. Just like basing it off the artwork, like, oh man, all these look really cool. And you take them in, it's like, yeah, these are 50 cents. These are like none of these are over $1.
yeah, you're like, oh, I'm gonna get like $100 as at least. But no, no.
It's always sad. And like
Yeah.
the one card that's like normally super expensive is like your favorite card. And you're like,
Mm,
I wasn't really trying to sell that card. you know?
yeah. Yeah, like, oh, I could buy that off you for $50. I'm like, yeah, but this has sentimental value, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And,
Like, like or the limited edition cards that you think are going to be expensive, like the Mew card that came with the first Pokemon movie. They're like, oh yeah, this card's absolutely worthless. Everyone has this fucking card, you know?
yeah, yeah. I could give you a penny for that.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, everyone has this. We've got, in fact, we've got about 100 of them already. Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, but Zoot says never understood that people got into cards for the long term investment. It's the same as crypto when you take two steps back. It's no, like honestly true, and we saw that like kind of in grand performance with
Mhm.
the Logan Paul, or yeah, the Logan Paul thing or the Jake Paul. I can't. The Paul brothers when they were buying Pokemon cards and shit for YouTube and they got scammed and yada yada yada. Like that that was definitely a precursor to crypto, but I think
Yeah.
just stocks in general, people need to realize that if they're going to go into something for money like collectibles, you're taking a gamble every time. Um, and it's always going to be a gamble. So if you're going to get into something, you might as well get into it as a hobby rather than trying to make money off of it, because otherwise you're just going to buy a bunch of shit that you're never going to use and probably will never sell. And when you do sell, it's not going to be worth anything near what you paid for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. If you don't get into it for the fun of collecting and potentially playing, maybe if you have a local scene for that, is always the first reason for buying that kind of stuff. You should never go into for reselling it and
Hmm.
hopefully potentially hitting it big, getting like that big rare card that's worth $100 or so and making your money back and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we kind of have a set time today on the podcast. I really do appreciate everyone who came in today, who followed, who stuck around and chat.
Mm.
Big shout out to Brutal Richard for rating our stream, and it really means the world to us when you guys come in here and talk with us and share these memories that we have. We only stream for an hour, and it always goes by so fast.
Every
um,
time.
we're never ready to quit. um, but it means, oh god, it means the world. We cannot thank you enough. Just a quick reminder, um, Tuesdays we stream at 6 p.m. Eastern time. That's more of a free form chat. Bring your topics. That if you really want to talk to us, that is the perfect time. We try to hit every single comment that floods the gates. We really want to make that stream about our chat because we want to show how much we appreciate everyone who comes in, who says hello, and takes the time out of their day to waste it on us. That's your day, Tuesdays. But we also really appreciate when you come in on Saturdays like these and just listen really to us talk about shit that we did as we were kids practically. I mean, obviously,
Mm.
we still play
Yeah.
Magic to this day. We still
Yeah.
play Yu-Gi-Oh! and all that good jazz. But
We're still kids at heart.
yeah, still kids at heart. It means a lot that you guys are willing to come in here and listen to us talk and interact with us. And we don't mean to skip over people's comments. That's why I put the chat into stream, because I love going back, watching these streams and see how everyone reacted to stuff, because we can't see everything when we're in this mode. But gosh, it really does. It means a whole bunch to us. So, quick reminder: Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Tuesdays are freeform. Saturdays are focused topic. Next Saturday, Dylan, do you remember what we're going to talk about next Saturday?
I don't know. Do we have an itinerary started for that?
We don't have an official itinerary, but what are we doing next Friday?
Oh, right, right. I almost forgot. We are playing some board games, having a good old time. Some maybe some alcoholic beverages, maybe some
Uh,
pizza, maybe definitely playing some board games. That'll be fun. It is always a good time to just sit down and make each other mad.
Yeah, that's no joke. So next Saturday, we're going to be talking about game night, and in great fashion that we do here at Discussions at Brunch, we always try to get some sort of refresher on the topic before we do it. So Friday, I'm going to be hosting a game night for me and my friends here. Dylan is part of that friend group, and then hopefully we can bring up some good stories from that night and previous nights to talk about, and
Hmm.
hopefully you guys can relate. We've got some of the games that we got on the board right now. I've got some catchphrase, which is like one of my favorite games of all time. No, it's not just us two. We have more, I've got a bigger friend group, I promise.
Yeah, We have a few people coming over. It's not just two people.
Yeah, but we've got some catchphrase. I've got some late night Family Feud. That's the adult version of Family Feud. Ooh. Some exploding kittens, which is always fun. We're Still Good, which is the Good Mythical Mornings version of Cards Against Humanity. So, bought a lot of new board games. Can't wait to try them out, and I can't wait to talk with y'all about it this upcoming Saturday.
Mhm.
I'm gonna make sure that I get the chat bot working for at least Tuesday. I'd like to get it working on Tuesday. It's a little
Yeah.
embarrassing that it didn't work today.
Yeah, we can
Uh,
use that free period to really work out the kinks on that one.
Most definitely. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll please stick around, if they're still live, which I think they are. Let me type it here. If I knew how to type. Studio Johnny Q is still streaming, so I would like everyone to stick around for the raid. We're going to be raiding Studio Johnny Q, and once again, we really appreciate that you guys come in and share this time and make memories with us. So, yeah, thanks for stopping by.